more formal, a little more complex, and more often found in disputes that cannot be easily resolved by just the two parties involved. First, I want to talk about the type of participation in mediation. Like negotiation, participation is voluntary. People request to engage in mediation, to hire a mediator. Now, a little later, we're going to talk about some forms of dispute resolution that are not voluntary, but most of the ones we're going to talk about today are. Unfortunately, if you are getting divorced and you are involved in mediation, the decisions that you come to through the use of a mediator are non-binding. This means you cannot force the other party to conform to the agreements that you come to during the process of mediation. So for example, if you bring in a mediator when you're getting divorced to help decide who gets custody of the dog, the person who does not get the dog can always challenge the decision that was created, for lack of a better term, during the mediation process. So if you ever get involved in some kind of ugly breakup and you want to bring a mediator in to decide who gets custody of Fido, keep in mind that the decision is not binding. With mediation, unlike negotiation, you do have a third party. So mediation is our first type of dispute resolution that actually reaches the dispute stage. And in this case, the parties involved select the mediator. The parties involved select the mediator. In the divorce example, perhaps you and your soon-to-be ex might select a clergyman, a friend of the family, somebody you met at the bar. Probably a bad idea, but you might, to serve as mediator. Just like with negotiation, this type of dispute resolution is informal and unstructured. There are no rules and regulations governing how the mediation should proceed. There may be proofs and evidence, but what's most important to the decision is the attitudes of each party. More important is the attitudes of the parties involved, okay, the two disputants. Okay, so evidence is not as important as attitude. Okay, now you might have proof that your soon-to-be ex never took the dog out for a walk, but if your ex stays calm, cool, and collected, and you're there screaming and shouting and throwing, oh, I don't know, your Diet Pepsi in his or her face, the mediator is probably going to recommend that the dog go to your spouse, even though you have evidence that the spouse didn't take care of the dog, because your attitude is going to lead the mediator to question your suitability. Okay? The type of decision, like it is with negotiation, the goal is to have a mutually acceptable agreement. May not always happen, but that is the ultimate goal or desired outcome in a mediation. Okay. In other words, both parties need to be happy. What about the justification of the decision? Okay, now it's informal in a negotiation, but when you get to the mediation stage, it does tend to be more formalized, and that means that it's usually embodied in a contract or a release, in a contract or a release. Okay? With negotiation, usually that's the goal. In mediation, you actually need to take it that one step further and create a contract. Okay. Realistically, and I'm hoping all of you guys, when you do decide to get married one day, what you'll do is that you will get a prenuptial agreement. And the goal here is that if you do get a prenuptial agreement, that you will have a third party serve as mediator. Okay, prenuptial agreement is a form of mediation. As it is with negotiation, the emphasis is on the disputant's relationship. Okay, it's on the disputant's relationships. You want people to be happy, you want them to be able to work together. And the nature of the process is, once again, a private process. Not as private as negotiation, because obviously you're bringing in a third party, but it is still a private process. And that is it for mediation.